The most amount of money spent by a British club for a player, Jack Grealish. These are a list of Manchester City's most expensive signings. It's the first time since Robinho joined back in 2008 that City holds the record for the most expensive signing made. Although we should add, in terms of fees involving a British club, Philippe Coutinho is still the most expensive when Barcelona bought him from Liverpool. But Jack Grealish there, top of the pile. It might be broken by a certain Tottenham striker later this summer. We don't know. We don't need to discuss that because it hasn't happened. But Jack Grealish, the obvious question I'm going to ask you, Chris Sutton, £100 million, turns 26 later this year. Is he worth the money?
Well, most importantly, Pep thinks he's worth the money, and that's the feather in Jack Grealish's cap, that Pep's willing to fork out £100 million on him. He must rate him so highly. He must feel he is the difference maker. I mean, he's a brilliant player. He carried Aston Villa, I think it's fair to say, the last couple of seasons. And he's at a good age. I think he's such an exciting signing. And he's there to win Manchester City the Champions League, something they haven't done. But, Pep spending that amount of money on him must give him a great deal of confidence.
Yeah, what does it say when a manager is willing to splash the cash like that, Neil? Pep did come out to say, no, we didn't spend £100 million. We spent £40 million because we've made some sales during the summer. We got money from Jadon Sancho's transfer to Manchester United due to a clause in his contract. So it's not as expensive as it seems. But still, it is an extraordinary amount of money, Neil.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of money for a player who's been at one club. He's really burst onto the Premier League scene, the last couple of seasons where he's been fantastic. And Chris is right, he's been a real talisman for us in Villa. However, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Can he perform at a consistent level, at Champions League level? Can he play in a team that are going to be destined to challenge for all the top trophies? It's a real statement of intent from Manchester City about how they're going to go about their business going into the new season. They are still looking for the Holy Grail on top of the Premier League, which is the Champions League, which has eluded them so far. So they've put down a marker for the rest of the clubs this season with, a huge investment in one player.
I was reading some newspaper articles earlier today, well, as I do every single day, and there's one Chris Sutton who's writing about Jack Grealish, just expunging his love for the player, it seems, talking about all the stats.
I must have been riveted on that one.
I think there was a ghostwriter. I can't confirm it, but maybe we'll find out the answer during the course of this conversation, because a lot of stats were thrown in by Chris about the amount of chances created by Jack Grealish. In fact, he created more than De Bruyne did last season, although there were different amount of games played. Only one, but still. I mean, we're talking about Kevin De Bruyne here. So where does he fit into the system, Chris? Because you said yourself in the article, number 10, yes, he can do it. False 9, yes, he can do it. But out left, wide, that's where we've become really accustomed to him.
Yeah, and I think that's his best position. But he is versatile, which is, a massive strength for him, a massive strength for Pep. Manchester City didn't really play with a conventional centre-forward last season, and yet they still won the Premier League and won it comfortably. But Pep wants to go up another level. But I think he's at his most talented off that left-hand side, coming in on that right foot. The ball, it seems like it's always glued to his foot. And I think he's a little bit of a different type to Sterling and Morris, who like to run at defenders with pace. Jack is more sort of stop-start, but Pep thinks that he's going to be the difference maker and that creator for City in the final third. And they have so many creators anyway. So it will be interesting to see how Pep uses him this season, but we know he's going to play a lot of games, and we know that Pep sees him as the man to take Manchester City to the next level, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say that he's the best player at Manchester City, regardless of the transfer fee paid for him, because he hasn't played for the club yet. However, Neil, he could potentially go on to become the best player in the squad, given his age, given where he should be hitting his peak. It's still a little while away, just generically speaking.
That's a very good point. He's 26. He's coming into his best years. I've seen a lot of maturity from Jack. He's always been a bit of a maverick player, but he seemed to have really matured over the last couple of years. And now he's got, the golden move, if you want to call it that. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him. I think he enjoys that. I think he's that type of personality. Where he fits in, I think Chris is right. He can play left. He can play eight. I don't see him, as a false nine, because I don't think he's a prolific goal scorer by any stretch of the imagination. But what he will do is he'll create and he'll provide. And as long as they've got runners going off him, then, he should, slot in there quite seamlessly. But it's a huge amount of money. And it's not his fault, the price tag. But, he's going to have to hit the ground running and, justify, the outlet from Manchester City. And I think he's that sort of personality that can take that on.
Chris, I'm surprised you didn't jump in there when Neil commented about Grealish's ability to play as a false nine.
Look, I think he's versatile. I'm not saying that's his best position. Of course, it's not. But he has a brilliant football brain, and that's been the key to his success. I think it's really interesting and right what Neil says about his personality. I think that in the last couple of seasons that he's knuckled down. I think you look back a few years ago and he was known as a bit of a party boy. And the other thing which I find really interesting about the signing, and with Gareth Southgate when he's been involved in the England squad, there's always been this question mark about Jack Grealish, what he does off the ball. Does he work hard enough? Well, Pep obviously thinks that he does do, because if he's not working hard off the ball, then simply he won't play. So Pep's seen something in him, I think, which Gareth Southgate hasn't. Yeah,
that's an interesting point as well. But Neil, talk to us about the intricacies of signing a player. I mean, for the outside world, it starts off as rumours, but for a club, particularly at the level of Manchester City, the research into Jack Grealish would have been done months and months and months ago, maybe a year or two ago. It's not something new. It's something that would have been planned and been in the process of for an extraordinary amount of time.
Yeah, this would have been over 6-12-month period, Adam. People going to watch him live, reports back, stats, analysis, even his life away from, the training ground, his life away, from the football stadium. So all these things, listen, when you're making an investment like that, you have to get it spot on. And, Man City will have done, complete due diligence on the player, his private life, his professional life. I think Chris is right in terms of his work off the ball. I think that's improved. I think he's got good fitness levels, which, again, I had my doubts over a couple of years ago, but watching him, over the past sort of 18 months, he's always in the game. He always seems to finish the game well. He's always involved. The only reason I wouldn't have him as a false nine is I think he's far better when he's facing the player rather than with his back to goal. He does like to roll people. I think he's the most foul player in the Premier League last season, so he will buy a lot of free kicks in dangerous areas on top of his natural ability to see passes and go past people. So it's very exciting for the Manchester City fans. I think it's a great acquisition for the club, but we will probably see some players leaving Manchester City as well to accommodate that.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, though, because I could sit here and reel off stat after stat after stat, but you're telling me you also take a really in-depth look at the personal life of a player. So, I mean, when you're playing at this level...
You've no idea the amount of work that goes on in the background, Adam, in terms of, some clubs I know for a fact would hire sort of private agencies to, just follow them for a few days just to see how they're living, what their professional life's like and what their private life's like, because it is a huge outlet.